Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your hosts, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, welcome to episode number 214 of the 31st Lap on our alternating week schedule here. 31st Lap is going to be on this week. Next week we're going to have Final Round Drag Racing Podcast. We're going to be coming live to you from Dan Germano's race shop out in Ontario. So excited, looking forward to that next week. So again, Circle Track Focus every other week now on Finger Lakes 1, and we're going to be jumping right into this evening's primary focus with the one and only Karen Davis-Farage, the president and co-owner of Pole Position Raceway locations on the East Coast. That includes the ones here for us at Destiny USA in Syracuse and the one in Rochester at Marketplace Mall. Pole Position Raceway is firing back up with their competition. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be with you.
I'm not sure why we're not hearing you. Hang on. There we go. There we go. Now we got you. So, Upstate Showdown is the weekly racing competition that's going to run throughout the month of November and culminate with a championship the first weekend of December. We had a couple guests on when we had this happen last fall, and then we had another round of it in the spring. It seems like it's a home run. We've got a ton of racing competition, a bunch of guests planned. There's a live show that's happening around it. This thing has really taken on a life of its own.
It really has. We're ecstatic that the reception to live has been what it has been. You know, when we started, we didn't think beyond what we were creating last fall. And last fall, you know, when we did it, we had 8 weeks of it, and we got some feedback that maybe it was a little bit long.
Right.
So we tweaked it some and came back in the spring with Live 2. And now we're excited that we've actually extended the name of it to be a little bit more specific to what this is all about.
Sure.
Create a little bit more competition across our upstate tracks. So we kept the live, but we now call it Upstate Showdown Live, which is what you just mentioned.
And this thing is going to be awesome. What's going to happen for anybody who's not familiar with it is qualified racers have the opportunity to race against the best of the best in the area. Then you get named champion. Easy as that as it looks on paper. $500 goes home with a champion. Not too bad there, but you've got a lot of racing between you and that championship. We're going to be racing for over the course of 6 weeks. Leading up, or over the course of 5 weeks leading up to that championship, there's going to be action held simultaneously at the Buffalo location, at the Walton Galleria, at the Marketplace Mall location in Rochester, and Destiny USA in Syracuse. Throughout the course of the 3-hour block, you have to qualify for an A main, which is going to be held at the top of the hour. From there, you accumulate points. If you don't qualify, you have to run in a B main. It's not just as simple as showing up and racing and scoring points and turning the fastest laps. Not in the least. You have to basically get a license just to qualify to show that your lap times are fast enough to compete. And we were talking about differences of tenths and hundredths of a second when we got into the championship rounds back in the spring. It is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. And you know, we want to be as inclusive as possible, and that's why anybody can qualify as what we define as a pro racer based on qualifying lap times from previous arrive and drive races that they've done. So anyone can race. And of course, last spring we added what we call the B main event because we wanted to make sure that we were also inclusive of those that weren't in the top seed. So the B main, which is an every week race as well, a main event, is going to also give racers an opportunity to win nightly prizes, and then they can continue to compete for the showdown itself. So we want to make it as inclusive as possible. And we hope every series that we do, that we get out to new racers and some people who possibly have never even raced before. Because as you said, 3 hours of racing, we're going to have, we have 9 races that they can qualify for a night. We're certainly not suggesting everybody has to race 9 races. It's just the best lap of any of the 3 races of the hour that'll get you into the main.
And from there, you kind of hit on something. We had some folks that have never even turned laps before that ended up qualifying for the championship round back in the spring. It was somebody who had a little bit of experience that got pretty deep from our home area last year in the fall event. But nonetheless, these carts are designed to be fairly equal. It's the fastest electric carts out there. The maintenance on them is outstanding. You're not just simply going out there and putting around in an electric golf cart. These things are fast, and you have to know how to maintain speed through cornering, how to gain speed, how to build momentum. There's so much that goes into actually driving these things that really lends itself to a racing experience that probably a lot of people aren't expecting. You got to get out there and check this thing out for yourself. It's like nothing else. Really that's going on in terms of indoor kart racing or indoor kart hobbies anywhere.
Well, you say it very well, and we appreciate your in the way in which you define it, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the most authentic and exhilarating, yet safe, experience to each of the communities and regions that we're in. And we don't expect that many people have raced like the racing that we're going to provide. Not only are our carts from Italy, and with being that they are electric, low in torque, and the incredible acceleration, and the fact that they go fast, and there's really true centrifugal force when you're racing. But we really care for these carts. Every single cart is getting an A service every month. We have tens and tens of thousands of dollars of inventory at every store, so that as those carts not either go through A services or as they need to come in for a checkup after there's been a mishap or whatnot on the track, we are always trying to optimize and ensure that cart is in the best and highest performance possible. And, you can't say that about all venues and all racing experiences. And we get that, and we're not trying to compete. We're just trying to be the best racing experience that somebody can have. And we think it's, other than being on a speedway, we think it is, and our goal is to make it the most authentic and high performance possible.
And at the end of this, we've got all of our qualifiers that are going to stretch out over that 4-week span. Obviously, the 22nd, it's the 22nd of November. We're going to take the weekend off, and then we're going to come back with one final week of qualifying before we move into the championship, which this fall is going to be held at the Buffalo location. The folks that are the top 3 from each of the locations, the top 3-point getters in Syracuse, the top 3-point getters in Rochester, the top 3-point getters in Buffalo, are all going to go to Buffalo for one final night where they race sort of the same format. But when they get to Buffalo, there's no home track advantage. This facility is going to be revamped. They're going to run it in a different format, so the playing field really will get leveled. So no matter how much they've honed their craft at their home track or even running in Buffalo, the slate's wiped clean. They got to refigure out the track. They got to go back through and call back on their driving experience and their familiarity with the cart and knowing how to generate speed and turn fast lap times on a cart on a course rather that's green that they haven't seen before. And we saw a little bit of crossover in the fall last year where some of the guys from Buffalo ventured out to Rochester just to check it out so that they had a small familiarity with it. But man, once that track is turned over and it's green again and nobody's seen it before, anything can happen.
That's right. And last live it was an endurance race, and we're not going to say what it's going to be at this point to keep people on their toes. But yeah, it is an even playing field, and that's the only fair way to do it, isn't it? It's everybody's got to get out there after all the racing that they've done. They've earned the right to be in Buffalo for this event. And in fact, we're pretty excited that, the first time we did it, we brought it to Syracuse. The second time we did it, we brought it to Rochester. And this time we're going to bring it to Buffalo. And we're even going so far this time as we'll be naming a sponsor who we're going to make sure then enables those that are coming in from Rochester and Buffalo to stay overnight if they choose to, and not to have to go home. And we want to make sure that people can stay around and not have to worry about getting home, especially that drive from Buffalo to Syracuse. So each time we run this series, we learn something else. We are continue to try to hone it, and our racers will find out when they get there.
How much do you actually get the chance to get out to the tracks?
Well, I'm at a track every day.
Every day?
Almost every day.
Yeah.
Today I was at Jersey City. Yesterday I was in Long Island. I was in Syracuse. I'm in Syracuse, Buffalo, and Rochester at least once a month. I'll be in Rochester next Thursday, and probably Syracuse the next day. So as the owners, we've never taken a back seat to what we're providing. We feel it's so important that not only our employees and our teams understand how committed we are to their efforts at each of these tracks, but also our customers, our racers. And we have a lot of personal relationships out there with a lot of racers. So we're not silent in our roles at all. I'm at one of the tracks just about every day of the week.
That's awesome. Farmingdale, New York is one of the locations. Jersey City in New Jersey, one of your other locations, and of course the three locally to us in Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, all under that same ownership group that you're working with. Do you get a chance to get in the karts at all?
Oh yeah, all. So this is a pretty exciting time for us in our business. We built 5 in 5 years, and now we're stepping back and looking at our long-term strategy, and we're going to be adding some additional experiential activities to some of our tracks. As you well know, both Jersey City and Long Island are in standalone boxes, if you will. Jersey City is 80,000 square feet. Sydney is 40, and Marketplace is 52. So with that additional square footage, especially at Jersey City and Long Island, we're adding some really exciting additional experiential activities. So we just added a simulator made by the company out of Amsterdam that builds the simulators for planes. And so we're talking about as authentic as it comes, and that simulator has a Grand Prix course in Europe, and then it has Watkins Glen on it. We'll have a formal announcement of it over the next month, but it's been up and running for about a month and a half now. And it's the driver and then 2 passengers in the simulator as well. And we'll be adding that to Jersey City, and hopefully we'll get that into our upstate stores as well. Although with the size, it is somewhat limiting as far as what we can bring in, and this thing's really big. And then we're also adding some other experiential activities that I won't let the cat out of the bag yet, but some other activities as well within our buildings, but always being focused on the racer and the spectator. Always racing first, and anything else we do second.
The racing side of things, it is open to anybody. Pole Position Raceway, you've got all sorts of options available at these places for the folks that haven't been there before. A group of 10 or more people as a company function or whatever, you can go and you can race and get some bragging rights that you can share in a Grand Prix style event around the water cooler, or some of these individual locations different times have their own Grand Prix and Super Pole events, which are 2, 3, 4 event races where you accumulate points, you get first, second, third medals there. It's really neat, the different types of racing that are available. So, maybe somebody can't get there and run for the points per se, or they're not confident in their abilities. You've got plenty of chances to practice between now and when things really get rolling for this, say mid-November. You can get a couple laps in, and maybe you can get into that qualifying bracket and run for the money.
Absolutely. And actually, if you go into any of the stores and you tell, and anyone, who's never raced before, tells our managers that they're thinking about participating in Upstate Showdown Live, our managers will be happy to give them pointers and teach them strategy and help them with learning how to, what is some of the rules of the road and some of the racing mantras that they should really know when they get out there. So, we want to be there for our racers. We want to encourage our racers, and we want to provide as much value as we can. We even have an hour-long racing clinic, and for $100, anybody can reserve. It may be a little bit less upstate, very candidly. I can't remember offhand, but it's almost a full hour. You get several races within that time. You race with an instructor, and then and you really learn. And you come out of that clinic, and you have learned a whole lot more, and your abilities are much better than they were when you started. So we try our hardest to provide value to the racers, and anybody, as you say, can start racing and arrive and drive racing tomorrow and be in the showdown and qualify for the showdown when it begins next week.
You hit on a little bit of pricing. We can run through the pricing for Upstate Showdown Live itself. $51 for 3 races, $96 for 6 races for members. Non-members at $74 for 3 and $135 for 6. Racers interested in points tracking to qualify for the Upstate Showdown Live Championship. There's a one-time $40 entry fee, and all this money that's going into it for the amount of fun that you're going to have. You're spending a couple hours there. You're going to be having a ton of seat time in that as well. Again, the prize is running back down through that $500 grand prize. There's $250 for second, $150 for third. And then you got a bunch of partners on board with you too, with Monster Energy, Coca-Cola, Dave & Buster's, World of Beer. I mean, there's a bunch of folks that are helping make this thing possible on the corporate level among all these different locations. And again, there's all sorts of prizes on the line nightly for those B-main racers. There's a lot that went into putting this thing together. How much background really did it take after you had the first two? Were these companies ready to jump on board with you once they saw the response that you had after the first two went through?
Yes. I think we've learned a lot. I think our execution will get better and better to make sure that we're really highlighting our sponsors and that there's real value add to them by being part of this. But the response from the different regions has been exceptional. I mean, I just give you an example. In Syracuse, and by the way, every single race, we give away something. So there's a lot of $50 and $25 gift certificates that are being given out every single week and for every single race.
Wow.
So there's a lot of fun and a lot of prizes, just through each week, and it's for both the A main, as you say, and the B. Right. So the B the winners of the B get free races. And the second prize is 50% off. Fastest lap is 2 free races. And that's just for the B. Because we want to take care of everyone. We want to make sure that everybody feels, get something out of it that possibly can. But some of those vendors, we've got restaurants. You mentioned Dave & Buster's, Cheesecake Factory, all Delta Sonic, all kinds of companies, Moe's, and companies that are not necessarily into racing, but have kind of embraced what we're trying to do, and we've made friends with them. And I don't know how much you know, or our racers know, that our third core value of our company is give back. We have a give back charter called CARS. You would expect, of course, or CARES for those that are into that are more familiar with give back. And the C stands for cancer, A for Alzheimer's, R for recovery, and then the S for the S and those in need. And so we have a never say no policy, and any 501c that asks, we give to in every single region, in all 5 regions. So we make a lot of friends. And when we come in, when we open a new store, we immediately make the public aware of that, and our racers and our customers and spectators aware of that. So that builds a lot of goodwill. And those people that ask for things from us for charity, in turn, work for different companies, and then they want to give back to us too. So we feel very honored to be in every city, at every mall that we're at, and in our standalones, because we are really truly part of every community, and we want everyone to win by this. So lots of prizes and lots of surprises, I should say.
That's one of the biggest things in racing that we've come across just in our travels, regardless of what iteration of racing it is. It's not just what you get on top. First place isn't the only guy that needs to feel like it was important that they were there, and that payback down through, it's important. I mean, like you said, you gotta find a way to give back, because if it's all going to the guys that are the drivers that are on top, the guys and gals that are finishing at the front, it's great that they finish in the front, but you also got to give those other folks that are finishing behind them some incentive to come back and try it.
Absolutely, and I also might, note, we have a lot of times people say, "Oh, it's really expensive to race with us," and we appreciate that. We hear that, and yeah, it costs us a lot of money to be in the malls, and it costs us a lot of money, to pay rent, and it costs us a lot of money to maintain our equipment and do all the things that we do. But we have really tried very hard to create a loyalty program that make sure that people don't feel that way. So anyone who races more than once a year really should be a member. And when you're a member, just like with the Showdown Live, your pricing will be better as a member of when you're buying your races weekly for live. But your price of your arrive and drive races is significantly less throughout the year as well. So a membership can get the races down $10 a race, and we can get the races down as low as $15 a race if you're a member at the right level. So we really encourage people to become members. There's no reason that anybody that lives in a region and is going to race more than one time a year comes to us and is not a member. And in fact, we feel so strongly about that every single month we have a member reward. So there's a promotional offering only for the members. So we don't want to just make sure that our racers benefit from the savings, the cost savings of racing with us on, throughout the year, and you get 2 free races right up front when you buy a membership. But then we give you promotions throughout the year. So I think the promotion for November, I'll let the cat out of the bag, if you will. I think it's buy 3 races and get a 4th free. And sometimes it's buy 2 races and get a 3rd free, or it's all kinds of things in order to provide more value to the racer. So really encourage anybody that's looking at live to please become a member, because we don't want to take more money from you. We want you to come back more often and spend with us on the track racing more, not taking your money just as a non-member.
Sure. The other facet to this is the live program itself. Upstate Showdown Live is going to have an hour-long weekly radio show. Paul Small, one of the local radio personalities here out of Geneva, beginning November 1. They're going to air a show from 7 to 8 o'clock on WGVA. It's Finger Lakes Daily News here. The show is going to feature the latest news from motorsports across the globe, all kinds of motorsports stuff, in addition to the Pole Position Raceway action. You're going to have live play-by-play from one of the main event races that happened through the course of that week. And also they've got a ledger of guests over that time frame. November 1st, Andy Jankowiak, one of the asphalt guys from out Buffalo Way, he's going to be on November 8th. Tyler Seary, Outlaw Speedway's promoter. We'll get into a little bit of conversation about Outlaw Speedway here in a little bit. Erick Rudolph picking up a win out there. Jeff Abold, he won Budweiser International Classic up at Oswego. He's going to be at the Syracuse location on the 15th. Billy Colton from Troyer Race Cars is going to be on the 29th of November. And then the championship night up in Buffalo, Pete Bicknell, the longtime owner, operator, and a regular champion up at Merrittville Speedway and Ransomville Speedway. He's going to be on the air with Paul Small. So, I mean, really neat add-on to it is the fact that these drivers have the opportunity to get their name talked about on the radio in one of their mains.
You know, it's so important to us to be part of the racing community everywhere, and that's why we have partnerships with Oswego and Ramsonville and Lancaster and Brewerton and Canandaigua, and it goes on and on. Everywhere that we can be a partner in the racing world. And gosh, I certainly can't leave out Watkins Glen because they're a corporate sponsor of ours. But it means so much to us to have those partnerships, and then to have racers and personalities from the racing world want that it matters to come to Pole Position Raceway during live and talk to Paul. It's just a real honor for us, and it's also an honor for us that we have a partnership and a relationship with Paul. He's as you say, he's a well-known individual in the racing world, and we're just very, very proud that he wanted to be part of live from the beginning, and hopefully for as long as it continues. So the motorsports world is incredibly important to us, and we're honored to have all these partnerships and these relationships and the win-wins that we create with all these different organizations.
You've got, we've seen the Pole Position Racing name at all these different tracks. You just ran down a quick list of them. Watkins Glen right there on top. Brewerton here locally. We've seen a lot of the interactions with the Brewerton Fulton Speedway family, given their proximity to Syracuse, and Corey Reed's been a good friend of the 31st lap for a long, long time. Known Corey for ages now. Do you get the chance to go see full-size cars much and get to the actual racetracks?
So my husband and I, who own our business together,
right,
are the parents of 3 kids.
Yep.
And we became empty nesters in September.
Uh-huh.
Up until then, our first responsibility on weekends was to make sure that, we were being parents. And so we rarely got to races. We had a highlight of the summer as our kids finally left in August. We were able to be at Watkins Glen, mm-hmm, and watch the race, the Indy race there, and that was quite an experience. And we're just really looking forward to being spectators at more races as we go forward, now that we are empty nesters, as you will.
Well, you're going to love it. Especially when you leave there. And
it's a whole lot better than watching it on TV.
No question. No question. There's nothing like dirt modifieds. It is spectacular. You got to get out and see the 360 sprint sometime too. They spend a little bit of time in that area around Syracuse between Utica Rome Speedway and Brewerton Fulton area, Weedsport, which is right there off the thruway, easy to get to, and Rolling Wheels Raceway Park and Elbridge, all right in that wheelhouse for Syracuse, easy to get to. If anybody wants more information on Pole Position Raceway, they can jump online, polepositionraceway.com, 201-333-RACE, that's 201-333-7223. And then each of the locations for us up here in this part of New York, between Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, each one of those locations has their own Facebook page. You can jump on Facebook, look up Pole Position Raceway Buffalo, Pole Position Raceway Syracuse, Pole Position Raceway Rochester, and you can find more information about the individualized events and promotions that are going on there. Once you get to the location, you run it for the first time, you go 45 miles an hour in electric go-kart, you feel that real racing experience, you're going to want to keep up on it because you're going to want to be there. Karen, I appreciate so much you making some time for us and coming on. I know you got a busy schedule, especially with all the planning that's going to happen in the next couple days as you finalize everything, you get ready to launch. Upstate Shootout Live. Is there anything that we missed or anything that we wanted to hit on that I might have overlooked in our conversation? I can't believe it's been a half hour already.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, and I so appreciate you giving us the time and being such great supporters of Live for us. I think we covered it. Hopefully, in addition to those racers that have participated in Live over the last year, and we so much appreciate their competitive spirit and their sportsmanship, get out on the track and with that competitive spirit as well. So hopefully more and more people will tell others, and everyone will come out and either race or even spectate. Because, by the way, there's prizes for the spectators too.
Perfect. How can you go wrong? Everything.
It's a great night. So we look forward to seeing people next week, November 1st, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak about it.
You bet. Welcome anytime. We'll be following along as things develop, and we look forward to crowning some champions in December, and we look forward to, after that, hopefully we'll have a couple of those racers on.
Super. Thanks again, Bruce.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate you coming on.
Bye-bye.
See you later. There goes Karen Davis-Farage, the president and co-owner of the Pole Position Raceway locations on the East Coast. That includes Farmingdale, New York, Jersey City, in New Jersey, and then, of course, locations at the Walden Galleria in Buffalo, Marketplace Mall in Rochester, and Destiny USA in Syracuse. So, shifting gears quickly back to the racing leg of this, a little bit of information about what we had happen here in the last couple of weeks. We're going to look ahead before we look back. The final weekend of racing is upon us for the Super Dirt Car Series. They are down at the Bad Boy Off-Road World Finals at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the dirt track there. The dirt track is in action pretty much as we speak. Qualifying happening tonight and tomorrow for features planned for Friday and Saturday, running in conjunction with the World of Outlaws Sprint Cars and World of Outlaws Late Models. Matt Shepard going in. He's a 4-time Super Dirt Car Series champion, and he's looking for number 5. He's got a 218-point lead over Stewart Friesen. Going into this weekend, he's won 10 times, 19 top 5s, 20 top 10s, and 24 starts. Talk about consistent top 10, 24 out, or 20 out of 24 times. Stewart Friesen, he's behind him. He's got 5 wins, including winning at Oswego during the Bud Light 200 at Super Dirt Week. From there, he's got 19 top 5s and 21 top 10s, and there's going to be point-paying features, again, both tomorrow and Saturday as we crown our Super Dirt Car Series modified champion. Matt Shepard last year went in and secured his 4th Dirt Car champion, his 4th Super Dirt Car Series championship. Friday night finish at 4th, gave him an 81-point edge going into the season finale. Pete Britton and Max McLaughlin set fast times in the separate qualifying rounds. Last year, Danny Johnson won the Friday night feature over Larry White, and Tim Kerr won the finale. It was moved to Sunday due to the weather, and Matt Shepard was second in that one. In his last outing for the Super Dirt Car Series, it was Erick Rudolph. He won his first modified Super Dirt Car Series event at the Brockville Fall Nationals here a couple of weeks ago. Erick Rudolph was back in victory lane this weekend. He took a win at the Dutch Hoag Memorial on Sunday over there at Outlaw Speedway. He had a heck of a race over there, coming away with the win there. That gave him a total of, I think it was 3 wins in a row, given that he won the 358 small block to a race at Brockville Friday before he won that modified race. Stewart Friesen himself, we'll get into that one here in a moment. Let's see, lost my spot. There we go. Turning our attention back to the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They had that One Dirt World Short Track Championship over the last weekend, and 325 drivers showed up there. They had a ton of weekly division races, the VP Racing Fuel Sportsman Modifieds. They featured a lot of our drivers. Ron Davis III, he won the feature. It was a 30-lapper. He started 4th and got to the lead. Brad Rouse, he went from 9th to get 2nd. We couldn't do anything with Ron Davis. Danny Gage was 3rd. Davis led early. Mike Stacy led the first 6 laps, and then he got past him behind that top 3 that we just talked about. Rocky Warner was 4th. James Henry was 6th. Eric Jaguar, Nick Guerreri, Adam Hilton, all making the feature through last chance qualifiers. Eastern States weekend, Stu Friesen coming up with a win, backing up his win at Super Dirt Week. It was Brett Hearns to win. It was Brett Hearns to win. He played the same strategy that he's won with 3 times before, and it just didn't pan out. It left him about a half lap short of the win. Stu Friesen got underneath him and stole the win in the final corners on the last lap, which really, it was more salt in the wound for Brett Hearn. Nothing against Stu. What a great week he's had. He raced it great. Everything was kind of going away on Brett's car, and he ran out of car, and Stu Friesen took the win. But it was just that much more grating after Brett Hearn won the 358 race the night before. Came up light on the scales. They even pushed him off the scales, recalibrated it, weighed another car to make sure. And he had everything dialed in the way that he wanted it and was poised for a sweep of the weekend. And it definitely didn't go the way that Brett Hearn wanted after he was lost the win because he was too late on the scales in the 358 race. And then Stewart Friesen battling back in the last corners to pick up his first ever Eastern States Weekend 200. It was worth $35,000. He pitted with 20 to go, got a fresh right rear, and just stormed through the field and ended up making that last lap pass. It ended up that Hearn drifted back to third. Anthony Perigo ended up getting by him to take second. Rick Lawback and Kenny Tremont in the top 5. In that 358 Modified Championship, he came away too light. Brian Crummell took the win with Tyler Dippo, Perigo, Andy Bicchetti, and Danny Creedon moving up 1 position each to get into the top 5. Hearn said he felt like he had a weight cushion. He had room, even if he had a fuel cell that was empty, he still had, a couple 20, 30 pounds of cushion. And for whatever reason, with the tires burning off, burning the fuel, whatever transpired, if maybe it was the battery was dead in the calculator, something went awry and it left them light on the scale. So unfortunate turn of events for Brett Hearn over there at Eastern States Weekend. I know that was one that he wanted to win, but huge congratulations out to Stu Friesen. Stu Friesen's been such a good friend of the show, and he wins so much. And we had set some time up with those folks from Pole Position Raceway. I expect that, hopefully, in the coming weeks, when we get back here in 2 weeks, maybe we'll be talking with Stewart Friesen again. I'll have to see how everything shakes out down there at the Bad Boy Buggy Off-Road World Finals at Charlotte here this weekend. 5 Mile Point moving their action to this weekend to run October the 29th, right? Yeah, the 29th on Saturday, and they've built in October 30th as a rain date. They ended up moving that because Outlaw Speedway had some weather problems. They shifted their date to Sunday, and they packed everything in all day long on Sunday, and they had asked Andy Harpel and 5 Mile Point if they'd be willing to move the race, and they did. It worked out good for everybody because now they got the drivers that have the opportunity to run in 2 high-paying shows instead of trying to split their fields up. And he moved that, so now the Tobias Slingshot teams, it's going to be a national sanctioned event for them, and also there's no conflict now for the 4-cylinder street stock sportsman, IMCA factory stock teams, and all the rain checks are going to be honored on Saturday, if need be, from the initial attempt at it from back on October 8th. Schedules are going to be the same for the weekend. The curfew and holdover events from October 7th are going to start the show. That's the factory stocks and the 4-cylinders coming up on Saturday at 5 Mile Point. And then the new program is going to start. Pit gates open at noon. Grandstand admission's $15. You can't go wrong. And the racing program for Saturday, November 5th, which is another race weekend that they've got planned over there at 5 Mile Point, that is intact. Nothing's changing there. So the only weekend that was affected was this one coming up that was supposed to be last Sunday that's moving to this Saturday with the 30th of Sunday, set aside as a rain date if they in fact need it. Outlaw Speedway, on the topic of their weekend, they've got their banquet plans already coming into form. Tyler Series said that they're going to be at the Harbor Hotel in Watkins Glen on Seneca Lake. They're going to have dinner, cash bar, point fund award. Tickets are only $40 per person. Information is available online at outlawspeedwayllc.com. Steve Payne, Chris Fisher, Jason Knowles, Sean Bruce, Chuck Winslow, Erica Bell, and Austin LaBar going to be recognized officially to close the 2016 season as the year-end points champions. Race of Champions weekend. They're back at Oswego this weekend. They're going to be racing on the 29th of October. That's Saturday. At this point, all the clay is off the track. They've got all the fine grit off the track. Oswego Speedway is back to being the Steel Palace, no longer the Clay Palace. Race of Champions going to be racing over there. The clay being piled outside, sealed up and stored, ready to go so that they can bring that clay back in next October for Super Dirt Week. I believe that's going to be Super Dirt Week 46, the second edition at Oswego Speedway. This is the Race of Champions weekend with the Race of Champions 250 for the Asphalt Modified Series. The pit gates are opening on the 29th at 10:30 in the morning. Grandstand gates opening and hot lap starting at 12:30. Racing is going to resume with any other qualifying events that are needed at 2 o'clock. Main events are going to follow. The 66th Annual Race of Champions 250 is set for a 3:30 start time. Need more information, you can jump online. Following the Race of Champions weekend, Oswego Speedway is going to be closing their season November 5th with their Championship and Hall of Fame banquet at the Lake Ontario Event and Conference Center, which is part of the Best Western Plus Quality Inn and Suites complex right there in Oswego. Tonight's festivities are going to start with cocktail hour at 6 o'clock, buffet-style dinner. Awards tickets for that banquet at Oswego Speedway are $45. You can call the Oswego box office at 315-342-0646 or get into the office directly between 9 and 4 Monday through Friday. Tickets have to be purchased before October 31st for the Oswego Speedway banquet, which is right around the corner. That's Monday. There's no tickets going to be available at the door. There's discounted rates for hotels, folks wanting to stay, all the details, all the stuff you can find online at OswegoSpeedway.com. Spencer Speedway's got their banquet November 12th, 7 o'clock start, Palmyra VFW, $35 a head. Lita Ritter is the person to talk to there, 315-945-3661 for information about Spencer Speedway's year-end banquet. On the topic of Spencer Speedway and Chemung Speedway and running around the asphalt, Chemung Speedrome going to make some changes for next year. Came across this information. Some folks are already aware of it, but we wanted to mention it here on the show. They have faith the future of asphalt racing in that area is going to be on Saturday night. So Chemung Speedrome moving back to Saturday night racing. John White is going to stay on Fridays at Spencer Speedway, and he's working actually on getting the INEX sanction for the Legends and Bandoleros in 2017. So that's going to be something we watch pretty close. A statement appearing on Spencer's website thanks Chemung's drivers and fans and explain their hope that early notice is going to let them make the changes and that this will all shake out rightly in the end, with them transitioning back to Saturday nights. I know Outlaw Speedway had sent around an email with all of their results from Dutch Hoag Memorial Weekend. Erick Rudolph again taking the win. 70 cars registered for the modified. 36 cars started the field. 70 laps for the modifieds. Alan Johnson coming up second place. Steve Payne, who was in line to pick up not only the $7,000 to win, but a $12,500 bonus. He was set for third. Corey Costa and Bobby Varon filling top five. Tyler Seary finishing sixth. He was another guy that was in line for that $12,500 bonus. Remember, if you could win the opener, the Fall Nationals in September, and this one, you got a $25,000 bonus. If you could win two of those three, then you had the 12-5 waiting for you. Tyler Seary winning opening night. Steve Payne winning the Fall Nationals. Was hoping to make some serious bank there, close to $20,000 if he could have wrapped up both, finishing third. Erick Rudolph taking the win. The 700 to win modified dash, Matt Shepard won that one over Tyler Seary and Erick Rudolph. In the 360 sprint cars, Coleman Gulick, 17 cars registered for action and 25 laps of the distance. Coleman Gulick won that one over Lucas Wilk, Steve Collins, Matt Billings, John Preston, George Super, Kyle Drum. A lot of familiar names sitting up in there. Eric Carlson, former guest here. He was in the running behind Danny Peebles. Darrell Ruggles was in action. Chuck Hebing, Dave Axton. Not too bad. They ended up having two heat races for those guys. The Street Stock Empire 147 cars entered that 100 laps the distance. Kurt Stebbins put his name in the history books with a win over Glenn Wertenauer, Chuck Winslow, Brett Marlott, C.J. Guerreri, and Gene Balmer. Jared Hill, Bob Buono also in that final rundown. 34 cars registered for the Crate Sportsman activity. Tommy Collins won over Carl Comfort and Chris Doherty. And in the IMC Modifieds, 18 entries, 70 laps the distance for the IMCAs. Keith Lamphere winning that one over Rich Karnowski and Rich Michael Jr. Four cylinders, there was 37 of them. 20 laps the distance, Chris Woodard winning that one over Chris Leone and J.J. Creedler. And the 600 micro sprints were on the card as well. Had 15 of them, 20 laps. Tatter Kaiser winning over Mickey Silberto and Nick Groff. Pure Stocks, they had 5 of them show up, 15 laps for them. Buck Mills Jr. won over Dave Decker in that one. So, bringing our attention back to our schedule so everybody can follow along. We've been here for just about 45 minutes, about to wrap things up here on episode number 214. We're going to be back again in 2 weeks. Next week, we are going to be with Final Round Drag Racing Podcast live from Dan Germano's race shop up there in Ontario. We get to meet Dan, and Jason Oldfield's going to meet us up there, so looking forward to that. Getting up there, again, it is every other week for 31st lap and final round. Just make sure everybody knows about it. And also coming up next Thursday here on Finger Lakes 1, they've got that big debate that's planned. If you're into the politics, you want to make sure you check that thing out. That's going to be airing live at 8 o'clock, I believe, is their goal there. So Finger Lakes 1 TV, a lot of new stuff. That political debate is going to be awesome. They had a test run here last night, real successful, and looking forward to how that all plans out as we get closer to Election Day. And our local races, our state races, our national races, all really heating up as things drive towards electing the new president of the United States. Big happy birthday wishes to my dad, Mark Marquardt. He's going to be working with us as we have been invited back to Finger Lakes Speed World at the Auburn Mall. More details to come on that. So it's going to be March 4th and 5th, working with Jim Olin on that. The 31st lap, Final Round Drag Racing Podcast, and Monday's program, the Crash Course Podcast, which focuses on Demolition Derby form of motorsports, will all be live at different points through that weekend. We've got a ton of different types of cars. I understand that some of the guys from the Western New York Pro Rod Association are going to be coming down, so that's going to be cool. Drag racers coming. We've got Demolition Derby cars coming to be part of the mall show. It's like nothing those guys. I don't think that the mall is ready for what's coming. And then we're going to have an RC Demolition Derby up there as well. So that's going to be fun. We'll give you more details on that as we get closer. But I think we're going to stick a fork in this one. We're wrapping up. Thank you so much for joining us here for 31st Lap, episode number 214 in the books. Thanks to Karen Davis-Farage for coming and hanging out with us for a little while here on the show. That is going to do it for this edition. We'll see you right back here again in 2 weeks. Make sure you tune in again next week for the Final Round Drag Racing Podcast when we come to you live from Dan Germano's shop. We'll see you then. That's going to do it for the 31st Lap here on FingerLakes1.tv.